One of the things I love about teaching is recognizing how every student is completely unique and they have like their own set of fingerprints of skill sets and talents and abilities. No two are exactly the same. There's a lot of overlap, but every student again is unique. As a teacher, I love kind of figuring out what makes them tick, what are those things that they're particularly natural at, and what things that they still need a little more developing. There are really obvious kinds of talents, things that the world sees, kind of like the tip of an iceberg, maybe a big technique or someone who is a very kind of hot-headed temperament while they play. They can really express themselves. Great octaves, anything like this. But these are very obvious talents. I think there's an equal number of talents that are just as important, that lay hidden under the surface, that the audience actually doesn't even know they exist, but they're so important. And I suspect that you already have these talents. And that you can continue to develop these talents. Here's 3 simple ones you can think about. One is be a curious musician. Being curious could look like any number of things. It could be when you are playing out of a book of music, like, boy, what's the next piece in this book? Or what other pieces did this composer write or around the same time? Or what other pieces did this composer write for another instrument around the same time? Sometimes being curious in the modern sense might mean like surfing through IMSLP and finding composers you don't know anything about. It might mean kind of just following kind of the infinite number of trails that looking through YouTube can provide. In the older sense, it would, when I was your age, it meant walking through the stacks of the library and finding repertoire by a composer I'd never heard of and opening that up and, wow, this looks like a really effective piece. There are an infinite number of pieces written for the piano. We have such an ocean repertoire by the great composers and so many other composers as well. So be curious. This is a lifelong pursuit that has nothing to do whether you are pursuing music professionally or your age. Second thing, be consistent as you practice. Consistency is so important, and when we work like this, we make this terrific gain that sticks with us long term. When we work like this, and we have this kind of sudden flourishing of improvement because that deadline is there, and I know this experience well, that is a much harder level to sustain, and it also tends not to stick in our long-term memory. So you can be the most talented student in the world, but if you cram at the end, that is just not as effective as if you were consistently working hard. The last one is asking questions. I think this is a kind of talent that both shows your ability to articulate your thoughts, but when you can ask your teacher lots of questions, maybe things you've been thinking about during the week, or I'm having trouble with this part of the piece, or I'm not quite sure how to address this issue, that will be both effective for you as a student, but it'll also be effective for your teacher because they'll know how to focus their lesson. I teach a lot, and I get excited by a student who always comes to lessons with various questions because it really lets me know that they're thinking hard, and I feel immediately more engaged because I know the student is a lot more engaged. The truth is we all have questions, so keeping track of those and asking your teacher along the way will make a big difference. So those are 3 simple things, and here's the thing. Those might be a little bit of a natural inclination, but I don't think they're actually talents as much as it's just a skill set and a habit. And yet, like I said, they're at the bottom of the iceberg supporting that very visible part, but without that foundation, the visible part doesn't exist. So work on those 3 things, being consistent, ask questions, and be curious, and I think you'll enjoy the process.